I will call to order this meeting of the Greenfield Conservation Commission at 6:32 p.m. on October 25th, 2022. All members are currently present with the exception of Rachel, who has informed us that she might not be here. This meeting is being held virtually, and if any technical interruption occurs and the meeting suddenly ends, it will not be resumed, and all items will be automatically continued on the next scheduled meeting date, which will be the second Tuesday in November. This meeting is being recorded, and if anyone else is recording this meeting, you are required to let me know at this time or when you begin recording. All right, so the first item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes, September 27th, 2022.
I have a question, and forgive me, I should know the answer to this. It says down under our second hearing of the evening, which was for Eversource. Oh shoot, let me find it.
While you're looking for that, I'll just note for the record that Rachel entered the meeting at 6:33 p.m.
Oh, it says under other business and enforcement updates. I'm sorry, I don't think that was a hearing, but this was for Eversource. This was for a COC, that there is 70% ground cover that's vegetated. And I'm just curious, is the standard 75% cover? Or is it 70? This isn't a criticism, it's just a question.
Yeah, I know they said 70. I don't know if it is 75.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
They did say over 70% is vegetated.
that's true. That was my only comment. No, that was just for my own interest.
Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from September 27th, 2022.
I'll second that.
All right, a motion to approve the minutes by Erica, seconded by Fletcher. Any further discussion? All right, and we'll vote on that motion. I'll do a roll call vote on accepting the minutes. Kristen,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Rachel,
Abstain.
and I am an aye. So that passes. I almost said regenerative design because it's what it says on your video.
I'm working on trying to change that.
Mitch might have
But
to change it.
I don't have the permission to change my name.
Yeah, we were running into that issue, and I think Mitch has to change it.
Sorry, Mitch. It's my default account.
All right, so we don't have any public meetings or public hearings tonight. So basically, I threw a bunch of stuff on other business that we've been talking about over the year, just to kind of, get some updates. So the first one on there is Griswold GTD Conservation Area Trail Maintenance Project. And I think Mitch said that Fletcher has an update on that.
Excuse me. Yeah, there was a couple estimates that I received from Northeast Paving in Northfield and Mackin Construction in Greenfield, and they both came to around. And this is just to reiterate: this is to fill the sort of wet, muddy area near the start of the Griswold Trail with crushed stone. And so for those crushed stone in the ballpark of 3/4 inch to 1.5 inch, it was roughly like around let's say $330 to 400 and a little over $400, depending on which provider. And I think, so I did an estimate based on the measurements that we took, Travis, and what I didn't do is account for, like, we took a depth at the low point, but obviously it tapers up. So I didn't account for that taper. So these are probably, a fair amount over what we need. But in the case of Northeast Paving, they had a minimum of like a half load. And so that half load was right around that calculation anyway. And for the Mackin numbers, they can do small trucks. So we could do a little more granularity with them if we did go that route. And they said, even with a smaller truck with a little capacity, it's close enough. You could get the right amount there, and still just pay for 1 hour of the truck service. And the thing with that, the Northeast Paving truck, I didn't ask if they had smaller trucks, but we're talking like tri-axle large dump trucks, in both large truck examples. But with a smaller truck, I'm wondering if they might be able to dump it a little closer to the actual area, because when I looked at the numbers, for example, the pickup truck of my bed is not gonna move like a significant amount of tonnage without tons of trips, and a lot of shoveling, which is fine. It just, it might be easier if someone can kind of get through the gate and put it closer, and then maybe put the rest in a backup pile somewhere nearby.
Okay.
Can you remind me so this area, we couldn't use punch-in because it's part of the road that is still currently being used for commercial tree removal? Is that?
I think it's still being used by the farmer that like accesses the property through there.
Okay, so it has to be vehicle
Yeah,
sturdy. It can't be punch-in. It has to be crushed stone, right?
I think this is like the only spot where, like, out of all the wet spots that we looked at, that's probably true. Yeah, that was my understanding.
Who would be doing the NOI for that? Is it us?
Yeah, well, we talked about that last time, and basically, if we think that it's going to impact a resource area, then we can do an NOI, but we don't have to like pay a fee or anything to do it, and it would be us, like we would be doing it. Or if we don't think it's going to have like actual impacts to a wetland or resource area, I think we could go the route of like having a public hearing and just like talking about what we're going to do and do it that way without like, I mean, essentially that would be like if we thought it was going to be an RDA with a negative determination. We don't have to go through the whole RDA process because we're the ones who would be deciding there would be a negative. But if it was an NOI, like if it would require an NOI because it would alter the resource area, then I think we do have to do an NOI.
So does that mean we have to go out and look at where the jurisdictional wetland boundaries are and see where the buffer zones are? And
I think another site visit would be worthwhile, but yeah. Travis, I don't know if you have better memory of sort of the lay of the land when we were there.
Yeah, I mean, if we're only adding this into like the existing road bed, like
Right.
I wouldn't call that a wetland area, like a dirt road with a puddle in the middle. I don't think that would be a jurisdictional area unless I don't know, that stream that was near there was dry, and I think it's an intermittent stream, but I would have to double check because it could be riverfront area, I guess. It would be riverfront area for our ordinance, at least, even if it is intermittent. So
I
The
feel
thing
like, there's gonna
can't
be
remember.
resource area out there.
What's that?
Or I feel like there's going to be buffer zone and riverfront, at least under the ordinance.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there,
under the bylaws, maybe, yeah.
I think there would definitely be buffer zone. And yeah, I think what I found was that, like I said, like we can do an NOI and we would be reviewing it. And we don't have to pay for it. So it's like, might as
Who,
well, I guess. I
who
don't
like
know.
writes all that up though with the performance standards and every, that's a lot of delineation and writing. Like who does that?
Yeah.
Never-
I mean, I basically from what I've seen, like looking at, like the MACC handbook and things like that, I think generally conservation commissions, like if you're not actually going in and like, destroying a wetland, I think they generally don't do an NOI and they just, it's like, just do like a public hearing or something. And because it's like, all this is just like maintaining an existing like road surface, like road/hiking trail.
Right, but
Surface.
if we're
Yeah.
putting fill in a resource area, that's different. That's not maintenance.
Mm.
Permeable
No.
fill.
Was it previously, was stone previously put on that spot in the past? Because that would make a difference.
I think what we were told was that it was put along that road and then they stopped. And then where they stopped is where there's a big puddle now. Because
That's what I remember too.
they didn't go far enough.
I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely have done a lot of NOIs for trail O&M stuff,
Hmm.
and it's, been scrutinized, even though they're existing trails, just to put down like a little bit of stone in a trail if it's through a wetland or riverfront. So
Mhm.
I don't think we would be exempt from that. But I don't know where the resource boundary is, so. Do we have to like figure that out, and who does that? I guess is my question.
Sounds
We have
like
to hire somebody or,
at first it's sort of discretion
okay,
when we go there, but if we visit, and please someone push back if this doesn't sound right, but if we visit and it does seem like it is impacting a resource area, then again, it maybe kind of forgot where I was going with that, but maybe at that point it's worth doing some of the NOI work and then possibly actually doing an NOI. But I don't know. I mean, with that area, one of my main questions is it getting wet repeatedly because of runoff down the trail, or is it getting wet because of the water table or some type of groundwater transit from like a wet area to a like kind of under the surface? Because if it's just running down the trail, you know what I mean, and it's only in a buffer zone and we are maintaining the road, that doesn't seem particularly impactful, especially with a permeable thing that the water can still pass through, that the stone would be. But I think, yeah, I think it definitely warrants a site visit and to see, what we're dealing with, like buffer zone resource area and from what. Because I can't remember if I know if you're entering the area to the right, there's definitely wet area of some kind. Whether it's intermittent or not, I don't know. But then on the other side of the road, I think there's some type of like forested area, but I don't know if it's wet over there as well, implying that there's some type of flow that way. But definitely worth double checking.
I kind of wonder too, in the back of my mind, if maybe when the original stone was put down, if it created sort of like a disconnection between a wetland that was originally going through that area, and so now there's like more hydrology on both sides. I don't know. I haven't looked at it enough, but I agree. It'd be worth taking a look at. And just curious if if we do go out there and it does look like there are jurisdictional wetlands, whether or not there's up gradient wetlands, or it's just runoff, or it's maybe just BBW on both sides adjacent to a stream, are we allowed to do a delineation internally, or do we have to hire somebody as part of like an NOI, or how does that all work out?
So I just found in the MACC's handbook where it talks about this. So I'll just read this because I think it's probably helpful. I don't think it answers all the questions, but hold on a second. If maintenance or management work is to be done on riverbanks or in wetlands or water bodies on conservation land, the Conservation Commission must comply with its own land use management regulations, as well as the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations, though it does not need to pay the state filing fees, and it must comply with local wetlands bylaw or ordinance. Commissions are exempt from paying filing fees under the state law because they're part of the municipality. The commission should also be sure to write an exemption into its wetlands law or regulations adopted under it. The commission must hold a hearing before itself. Some commissions feel this is silly, but any attempt by a commission to exempt itself from these requirements will certainly have negative legal and political ramifications and will make it more difficult to get others to comply with these requirements. Public participation and the rights of the aggrieved parties to appeal are also assured by a hearing. Conflict of interest laws should not apply because commissioners have no financial interest in municipal lands. Some commissions avoid the appearance of reviewing their own projects by having their conservation administrator or a consultant act as the applicant and present the project at a hearing. The commission cannot shift the cost of a consultant onto the applicant when it is itself applying to do the work. However, if work is required by another municipal body, such as highway department, and requires a consultant, the commission may consider sharing the cost of the consultant with sharing the cost of the consultant itself with the other municipal body. Some commissions have filed a blanket notice of intent that will cover certain routine work near wetlands on multiple conservation parcels. For example, a commission could file a notice of intent to allow for invasive species removal, trail clearing, maintenance, boardwalk repairs throughout its properties. The key is to clearly identify the scope of the work allowed, the resource areas involved, and the steps taken to ensure the functions and values of the wetland resource areas are being maintained. Sample documents for permitting work on conservation land can be found in the MACC's online electronic resource library.
So is this something that our agent could do? Sort of?
Like write the NOI, you mean?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean,
Act as the applicant. Yeah.
I think the Conservation Commission itself can be the applicant, and the Conservation Commission can review its own. It's saying that, some people try to avoid how weird that looks, but it sounds like you definitely can do that.
I'm running a stream stats really quick on that stream.
Okay.
I'm curious now, I feel like it should be intermittent because it has been dry, but
Yeah.
just
I
see what
know.
the drainage area is.
There's a map in the folder for the forest stewardship grant that has a bunch of intermittent streams and a wetland area marked on it. And it's all of the streams are marked as intermittent.
Okay.
It's a hand-drawn map. Was prepared by Lincoln Fish for the forest stewardship grant.
Oh yeah, is he helping us on this? Is he available to assist if we need to do permitting or delineation, or is he qualified to do delineation?
I don't think Lincoln is a wetland delineator. I think he's just a forester. but I'm not sure.
You want me to put this stream stats analysis on the project folder somewhere? I'm already like 75% done. Should I save it or should I just toss it?
Sure.
Okay. Now I'm curious, what is the drainage basin area? It looks big on the map, but it's always deceiving. Drum roll, please. We have
Mhm.
a drainage area of 0.13. So not perennial.
I'm looking at the sample documents that they have about using about doing trail maintenance stuff. So they there's this so there's an example of like an NOI for basically all conservation lands in Weston for like routine maintenance and repair of passive recreation trails and land stewardship activities that do not adversely affect wetland resource areas and or buffer zones. And then there's like special conditions, and the special conditions like list all the, you know, things that are allowed, things that are not allowed. What under like routine maintenance of existing trails, they have cutting brush, branches, fallen trees, clearing and maintenance of existing treadway erosion control features such as water bars, trail dips, adding surface erosion control features, trail dips or water bars, hardening the trail with wood chips, stone dust, or gravel, or widening the treadway of an existing trail / fire road, routine maintenance of infrastructures or existing site furnishings such as boardwalks. There's like this whole big list. And then there's a section, work which requires notification to and approval by the commission, but which may not require a new filing. And it's like creating or rerouting a trail, installation of boardwalks, paving an existing gravel or dirt parking area, removal of invasive and exotic species within the 25-foot no disturb zone. So this could be a good, you know, a good example. Like if we think it is not adversely affecting a resource area. And it even lists riverfront area. They even checked that work could be done in riverfront area for this. I know I'm not sharing my screen right now, but I was just kind of scrolling through things. So thought it might not be super helpful. I see Christy's here, and this might be helpful for other trail stuff. But I think that'll be on our second agenda item after this one. So yeah, so do we, I guess, what's the next step on this? We have that quote. Oh, also, Mitch, I can't remember, did you happen to like reach out to Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts? And I think you did and didn't get a
Yeah, they don't have any feedback, I don't think.
Okay,
I think they just want to be kept in the loop.
yeah. Okay. And the other thing, there was one other thing. Oh, um, Lincoln was going to get back to us by the fall, I think he said, about some, like, he wanted to update the interpretive trail stuff. Mitch, I'm guessing you haven't heard from him.
No, I can ask him again.
Okay. Because I think he was saying like it would need to be by the fall because there was a grant that we could apply for. So I don't know, we might have missed the timing on that one, but. Oh, and Mitch, you also looked into how, like, the process for using the funds.
Right. I think you had it pretty much right. I think they just gave me more information on like the timeline, but
And
I
this
can
is
pull that up.
Yeah, that'd be good. And this is specifically, at first when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, but this is for the funds that are associated with that site. At first I was thinking like the conservation fund. But this is the like Griswold fund, not the conservation trust fund.
So yeah, first the Conservation Commission votes. We send that to the mayor's office, and that sends it to the city council. Be created by the finance office and submitted by the mayor's office. The order needs to be submitted 5 days before the committee chairs meet. Which meets 3 Tuesdays before the city council meeting. The order will then be reviewed by Ways and Means, which meets the 3rd Tuesday of each month, so they can make a recommendation to the council. The council meets the 3rd Wednesday of each month. At the beginning of the meeting, we'll have a first reading of the financial order. And then at the next council meeting, they vote.
So do we need to have a dollar number prepared?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think we need like an exact amount and exactly where it's going. And
Okay.
and we have examples of well, like we have examples of like the how it was submitted to city council in the past, because I found examples of city council meeting minutes where they were approving money from this fund for trail improvements. So, we could word it the same way that it was in the past, I guess, like. But yeah, it might, it'll take a little time, I guess, from the time we vote on it and before, they finally vote on it.
Just want to mention I added a picture of the area we're talking about in chat.
I'll share it. This area?
Oh, no, that wasn't the right one.
I was
There's
gonna say that doesn't
one
seem right.
photo down from there. Hold on 1 second. I was looking at the little thumbnails when I got the link. There we go. This is 102. Get that. All right, it's that second one.
And this is looking like,
North.
yeah, like
west-ish.
you're walking from the parking lot into the conservation land, I guess. The stream is behind you.
And those, I mean, I don't want to incite a riot, but it does look like there are some hydrophytes in the middle of the photo on the right and on the left. It could just be opportunistic, but at quick glance. Is it wool grass? It looks like wool grass. Let me do my, oh, I can't annotate, but that looks like, can you see the inflorescence at the top there? I can't annotate, but see that wide stemmed sedge growing in that little island in the bottom middle of the photo? Yeah, there's an inflorescence right. If you move your mouse up, yeah, that's the stuff. But if you move your mouse up, keep going. That's the gray, the like right at the top of that stem. Yeah, that stuff.
Mm,
That looks like it might be woolgrass. And then I think I see some jewel weed. Again, could be opportunistic.
Mhm. It sounds like we need you to be out at the site and help us figure it out.
So I guess, is that allowed? I mean, is that
I mean,
not-
the road is built, right? And so
And it's
is part of the
being
question whether we
driven
would
through.
be, yeah, is part of the question whether we would be causing a negative impact on the site by doing what we're doing, or that's usually the question we're trying to answer.
right? So in the performance standards, depending on what the resource area is, whether it's riverfront or BVW or just buffer zone, you know, is it affecting groundwater recharge? Is it affecting flood storage? Obviously, I don't think it is because it's not impervious surface area. It does constitute fill. You know, that may affect things like just like goofing off here, thermal loading and the macroinvertebrate community. So, I mean, I don't know, I just think it's worth looking at the performance standards and like thinking about whether, if that isn't a resource area, I think we just need to hold ourselves to the same standard that we hold our applicants to.
Yeah, it sounds like site visit and then getting into the details of the standards, and depending on what it is.
Is
We're
there
prob-
any formal agreement with the farmer that says anything about us like needing to keep that road open to vehicles or vehicle friendly, like maintain it?
It's a good question. I know
Yeah.
there's one for further into the conservation area, but I'm not sure about that one.
That might be worth checking out because Punchin would be, Punchin, I think maybe even exempt because that's improving. So I mean, under the existing conditions, there's an existing trail here. It gets wet. Trail users are going around it to not get their sneakers wet, which is causing increased soil compaction and runoff into sensitive resource areas. So putting down Punchin would protect resource areas, which is different than putting in fill. So if that's possible, I think that might be a better solution, cheaper, easier to permit, but it looks like there are treads in this photo. So someone's driving on it right now,
Mhm.
and Punchin won't work for that.
Yeah, and this is one of the spots that the equestrian people were staying. You know, they regularly pass over, and
Right.
what else?
I forgot
Well,
about the
a lot of the
equestrian.
other uses are winter, but
Right, so equestrian use, like Punchin won't work for that, right? Horses won't walk on that.
not sure.
Mhm.
Well, I guess it matters what's going
Can
on
you,
decent. Sorry, Rachel, go ahead.
can you, sorry, can you remind me what puncheon is? I don't think I,
Oh,
know.
it's like two runners, two long runners with 2 or 3 perpendicular supports. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay, so it's sort of more like a bridge, and is it wood?
It's wood, yeah, but it's not a
Okay.
bridge and it's not a boardwalk. It's one step below both of those things. So it's
Hmm.
just like, you could cut a log in half and that can be the support on either end. And then there's just 2 runners that people kind of
Mm,
balance on. And then, you're not walking in a wet spot. You're not going around the wet spot and creating new trails and new soil compaction.
I think it's pretty similar to like a bog bridge, right? But not necessarily floating.
got it.
That's a better way of explaining it. Thanks for watching.
But it wouldn't solve, it would create a problem for any vehicles that are,
Yeah, it would not be sufficient for vehicles, and I don't think it would be sufficient for equestrian use. That would just be pedestrian.
is it wide enough though? You could put like a small one on one side, because you could, I guess that if there was wide enough for a vehicle to pass. Or without, vehicles going around, because that's going to create more additional soil compaction than people's feet by a long shot. But for horses, I could see a way where like you could put, it looked like from the photograph, there would be a way to put a puncheon like off to one side and still have horses be able to walk.
We still have vehicles, digging up the wet area though, going past it is the only thing. Not that, well, yeah, I think that might still be an issue.
There was also a lot of biking out there. I noticed last time I was out there.
Really surprised.
Oh, I saw tons of Shire tracks and stuff.
Would stone, Fletcher, you're a biker. Does stone, is that something that you would go around? Can you ride through that? I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, I mean, go over anything really, through mud or over stone, over bridges,
Okay.
And I think the
for mountain
idea,
biking anyway.
and I think the idea with the stone is that basically like the rest of the road, it would just kind of fill in over time, and like you can't even tell that there was stone put down because it just looks like dirt.
Yeah, I think sediment would fill in the gaps, and I don't know if it'd end up being more porous or less, but I think if we avoid stone dust, then you're not going to get that like concretion or whatever that sets up with wet, at least not from the dust, not from the fill added, and you would sort of have just some larger unconsolidated stuff there.
Right, with larger void spaces.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure how much it will help to, if it's not covering the whole wet area, like you said, if it's off to the side. I think a lot of people are just going to go around it, not go on the puncheon. They're just going to keep going. The bikes will keep going through the mud. The horses will keep going through the mud. And it'll just stay churned up.
That's a good point. If we do nothing, I mean, in the spring when that gets kind of inundated, if there are vehicles using that, it's going to splash, it's going to make, it's going to make sediment migrate into, if there are resource areas.
It'll
So,
eventually widen to either side, because people going in the middle with anything heavy is going to push the sediment out to the sides, and people going around it are going to naturally run on the sides, and that's
Right.
So it sounds like there's a bit of time involved in approving funds. Is this something we could do a site visit on in the fall here, in the somewhat near term, or we feel like we'd want to catch the wet season? And does that kind of line up with our, goal of actually getting this work done? Because I think the picture is from, it was a fairly wet time. Was it May or June? It was July.
June.
So actually right now, this is sort of the second wet season, so might be a good time to check it out. And I'm happy to go out and take photos. I just think, I think it'd be great if Kristen, you were there, to check out some of the surrounding vegetation and hydrology.
Yeah, it is getting kind of late in the year.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll go on Sunday morning. I'd be happy to.
This Sunday I'll be out of town, but not that we have to go at the same time. But
Yeah, as long as I can take my dog for a walk there.
oh, it's a good place for that. Yeah.
I know, it's a great place for that, especially if it's on the early side because nobody's there.
Mm.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe that's the next step. Determining, well, I don't want to say determining because that sounds very official, but looking into potential wetland resource areas on site.
Putting it in for Sunday mañana.
Unless anyone has anything else they want to add on that, I think we can go to the next agenda item. Okay, so the next agenda item is conservation land trail mapping project. I have been making some updates to my trail map GIS stuff. I didn't actually put together like PDFs and stuff like I did last time, but I could kind of show off, some of what I've been working on. But hold on a second. I guess before we get to that, just because Christy's here, Christy, if you are here, Christy sent me an email and said that she was going to pop in at our meeting, and I guess she has a plan for doing trail work, trail mapping, trail signage, things like that. So I figured that it would fit in with this agenda item.
Sure. Do you want me to
Yeah,
speak in then, Travis?
Sure.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Moore, the Recreation Director for the city. And thank you for squeezing me in. As I had shared with Travis, we all are working on our capital requests and projects. And in our recreation capital plan, we've been carrying for years a line item for remapping, wayfinding for the ridge line and along Mountain Road to Poet Seat and stuff. And that's where we intersect, because part of that land, as you guys know, is conservation land, and the rest of it is park land through the rec department and city management. And so what we envision is creating new maps. And I know Fletcher has been working on some maps, and I think that's what Travis was talking about as well, but maybe that's not the same conservation land trail mapping that you're referring to on your agenda. But we want to modernize it, make it digital so that people can get it on their phones, people can get it on both of our websites. We constantly have phone calls for mapping, and the only map that we have of the whole area is ancient. So it's probably from the 70s, as you guys know, maybe the 80s. And we reworked the Highland Pond area many years ago, and I just want to modernize it, really get markers out there that will give users directions as to which way the trail goes. People have made new trails now, which obviously we need to assess. I had a meeting this week with the FERCog about possibly working with Ryan, who's at the FERCog, who does all their mapping, and possibly CPC money, as well as Travis. I don't know if you update the Conservation Commission on any of those potential projects where people are really interested in that area as well. And then there's always the trails, Mass Trails Grant. So there's a couple different areas, hopefully, that we can get money if the timing all works. We started to look at the trail grant last year, but then we were awarded the skate park grant. So that sort of took priority. And now it's time to start thinking about the next project and grants and funding. And so that's where we are. And I just wanted to mention that to you guys, because obviously I would at some point need to work together and work collaboratively to, I hope, have unified signage throughout the whole ridge there. I think it's a project that is overdue, and the community is really in support of it. So hopefully City Council would fund the dollar amount, which I'm still trying to figure out what the dollar amount is. So I don't have an exact figure yet.
Great.
Nice.
Do you, I
I was-
actually, oh, go ahead, Fletcher.
No, I just wanted to clarify for Christy that Travis is working on the maps and some of the data itself, like the like a map you could print out or put online, and I was, as you know, doing the broader overview map.
Nice. And then, so if I can ask a question, Travis, so that's what we
Sure.
had spoke about earlier
Mhm.
when I connected with Travis. Yeah, so maybe some of that data we can actually use. I don't know if I'm not an expert with GPSing by any means. I know that with the land that we all fought to keep part of by the Stone Ridge, Eric, who is the city planner, we went out there multiple times and tried to do GPS coordinating, and then to get it into his software, and it didn't work. And then he even used a second one, it didn't work. So I don't know what you're using, Travis. I don't know if that will import into the city's files, but obviously what the FERCog uses somehow definitely works, and Ryan creates beautiful maps. So if we can use some of your information, I think that'd be great. But if we have to start over, then obviously somebody needs to walk all these trails.
Yeah, I for the trail data, some of it we actually like went out with GPSs and got data that way, and then some of them I just pulled in data from like the OpenStreetMap website, because they have like a trails layer that people have edited over time, and I think it's pretty accurate based on comparing that with the parts that we actually, collected with a GPS. So that's mainly the data that I was working with. Yeah, for trails at least. And then, yeah, there are a lot of trails that are not on trail maps. And that's where, we have to kind of figure out what we want to actually be a trail, and do we need to like put some trees down across trails that we don't want to be trails, or
Exactly. It's a lot of mapping that we'll need. And as you guys all know, that there's some trails that currently people use that are on private property. So then we can identify them and work on some sort of legal agreement that they can continue to be used or not. Hopefully that's not the case, but so that's what we're thinking about. Again, I have no idea on the timing, if we'll get the funding. It could be a multi-phase project for sure. But I would hope that the Conservation Commission would be in support of this and would be able to collaborate with us.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask if is this something that like the Recreation Commission would be working on, or like because I've read about like joint Conservation Commission, Recreation Commission meetings in the past, when they were like, you know, talking about things like this that, you know, go hand in hand with both.
Well, I think, I'm sure that they would be open to some sort of joint meeting, but at this point, it's just, we're preparing our capital, and I didn't want you guys to hear about it and be caught off guard, so I just want to be transparent that this is what our goal is. And again, it's funding, and it also kind of relates with CPC because there's city applicants who are working with the rec department for trail marking, so that could be a partial funding source as well. So yeah, I think that I would say yes, the rec commission certainly would be open to a meeting, but until we get funding and figure out how the project would move forward, there would definitely be lots of meetings where we could collaborate.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the CPC projects that we have pre-applications for, about trail signage and trail improvements and things like that. Like, I guess as someone on, you know, the CPC, like, are those projects, do you think it would be easy to like fold those into this, or would your project, or you know, like the funding that you're going to be getting, would that sort of take away the need for these other projects? I don't know, I'm just trying to imagine like how they would all mesh together in my mind.
Well, it's no secret the city of Greenfield never has a ton of money for capital, and the CPC can be broken down into you know, the 4 areas. So, and I know you have very limited funding. I mean, I know it's a lot, but it's not enough to divide to do all these projects. So
Mhm.
I kind of envision that we might get some money from various entities and be able to put that together. So the one CPC pre-application, well, now it's moved forward into her full application, is with Joy Whippeck, who does, she's the person that wants to do the trail stuff and the markings and kiosks and stuff. And she did come to the last week's rec commission meeting. She knew that we shared about the capital, so it does work together. So we would work together, not just on her application, because obviously I need to support it, but as a joint project with capital and this, and potentially the Mass Trails grant.
I mean, that might have been more of a question for a CPC meeting, but
Well,
just
yeah,
in
no,
my
I
mind.
understand.
Yeah. And also, you know, you were talking about trying to get some of the trails that go through private land. That could also be like CPC money to fund easements or, you know, things like that, I think,
Hmm.
if it's preserving open space like that, or recreation.
Right. But first for me, like I need to, I don't, as the recreation director, I couldn't tell you exactly where all these trails are or how long each trail is. And it's really embarrassing, you know, when somebody calls, because we are so outdated in the mapping that we have. So that's why I hope that this is funded, because I think it's much needed. It will be well used, and it will bring people to the area, you know. Like I said, we get calls all the time of where to hike, and can I have my dog off leash? Can I bring my dog? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely public sources for most of the main trails in the popular areas. I think Travis grabbed a bunch from OpenStreetMap, and but yeah, so it's definitely out there. And for the sort of non-official trails, that, you know, little more effort involved there, but
I think that's one thing that's hard is if you go to like the All Trails app, for example, like you don't know what you like it shows all these trails, but like some of them are on private property and some of them are city property, and like you really don't know what if
What was
that's actually a
official,
good
yeah.
trail to
Mhm.
Right.
So
I have,
having
I have a
an
good
official source
I have a
would
good
be-
mental map for Rocky Mountain Park and Temple Woods from biking there, so I can be pretty helpful in that way once the
Mm.
data's sort of in front of us.
Mhm.
And then just having, guidance on placement of where to put these markers, and for emergency management, like the new, well, I say new, they're probably maybe almost 10 years old now. The GPS markers that we put, I went with Eric and we put the GPS coordinates for emergency management, and that's why they all say like B1 or G2 or whatever, so that if somebody passes by and they get injured, which happened several years ago, that way they can say that I'm on this trail and I just went by this marker. And I know that the technology is more modern now, even with that, with the 3-word app, so they can GPS coordinate where somebody is to rescue them if need be and that kind of stuff. So I just need an expert. I just have these grand visions, but I don't know how to make it happen.
Mhm. Um, I guess I had another question, which is you were talking about like along the ridge. Um, I'm guessing you probably aren't thinking like all the way along the ridge over to like the Canada Hill Wunsch Road area. But we actually have a trailhead there on conservation land that, eventually connects and you can hike all the way to Sachem's Head from there.
I didn't envision Canada Hill because honestly, I haven't really hiked that myself a great deal. But I mean, we could certainly look at including that. Again, it's just going to depend on the cost and the funding. Like I envision from Stone, was it called Stone Hill? I think the new piece that we just acquired, all the way down to Temple Woods. Like that's kind of what I envisioned, which is what I call the ridge.
Yeah. I guess this is a good time to mention that today I just got an email from the mayor saying that she's still there's still some unanswered questions and things like that about the Stone Ridge Lane parcel. So it's still like the decision is on hold, and she said that she might set up a meeting with me and Christy and the police department and I don't know, a bunch of these people to try and like, talk about like potential issues that people might be thinking of or so I just got that email today, so that wasn't on the agenda, but since we are talking about trails and that parcel, I thought it would be good to mention that.
Okay. Well, certainly if anybody has any questions, let me know. But again, I just assume you guys would be supportive of this project and want to improve the area for hikers.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what we're going to go into next, which you don't have to stick around, but this is like the kind of the mapping template that I've been working on for, this would be like for the conservation area up here, but so yeah, these are like the trail data that I have, and it's kind of hard to have the whole ridge on a map because it's so long, but
Right.
Yeah.
So your mile markers, that's just what you've imported on there then?
Those are actually the distances from intersection to intersection in miles. So 0.2 miles from there to there. And then I put like a square at each intersection.
Yep.
But you know, I would probably move things around a little. And, yeah, this is a template that I've been working on. Oh, and here's like the Canada Hill. One thing that's interesting up here is that, you know, there's this conservation land that goes out to the road, and then the city owns more of this land in here, but it's just like, oh, there's like the land that used to be Dakin's land, I think,
Mhm.
in here. And it says, someone contacted me and said, just so you know, in the deed, it says that that land has to be used for conservation purposes and the building's supposed to be torn down. Otherwise, the land goes back to Dakin. And
Isn't there a energy company land down there too?
yeah, and then most of this like down along the river is all whatever the hydro company is called. I
The
can't
First
remember.
Light.
Yeah, First Light. That's all like First Light land, and they have signs like trail marker signs and stuff along there, along that hiking trail. So
Right, but
anyway.
like that section is an example, right? Like there's clearly a path there, but we don't own it and I don't believe we have truly permission written somewhere to have that there, right? To use it.
Well, on First Light's land, I think they like manage that land, you know, because they have like recreation stuff on their lands, and I think that one specifically, like they intentionally have a trail on their property, and they have signs about like hiking that trail.
Hmm.
I think they
But
actually, yeah.
but then like where this connects up to Stone Farm Lane, I think that goes like through someone's property, and then, you know, the
Yep.
portion of this that is not city property is on private property. We've been looking into, like, when this whole thing about Stone Ridge Lane was going on, you know, we were looking into, one of the concerns the mayor had was about like liability, and we were looking into how like if just anyone lets the public hike through their land without, you know, charging them a fee or anything, then they don't have like liability if someone gets hurt hiking through. And so seems like it's allowed as long as there's not a no trespassing sign, I think, is kind of how that is. But, you know, it's obviously better to have an easement or something, so that way any future landowners would still have to
Right.
let that happen too.
I know First Light, as part of their permitting processes, excuse me, I think have to have like provide public access / recreational opportunities, I think, in some
Yeah.
capacity, at least with their renewal for sure. So I'm just curious. I'm wondering if any of these trails might be fulfilling that purpose, or if they're just sort of probably more likely as they just existed when the company got the land and they chose not to cause a stir and close it down.
Yeah, like I said, I've hiked this trail, and I'm pretty sure they had signs about like, you know, who, you know, saying like no motorized vehicles on the trail, like, you know,
Yeah.
you can hike with a dog, or, you know, like they had signs by First Light saying, you know, this is what's allowed on this trail. So it's like they manage, I would say that qualifies as them managing that trail if they if they have an official sign about it.
Yeah. Seems like that is the case.
Yeah.
The map looks great.
Yeah, and then I was also working on like a black and white version, like if we, you know, if someone wanted to print it, but, you know, maybe if they're printing it in black and white, the color version might get kind of muddied. So I kind of made the same map twice in color and in black and white with some slightly different things going on. So this is what we've been working on for, and then Fletcher was working on that map of like the whole city that you could click on a parcel and then it would bring up these maps once you like clicked on a parcel essentially.
Yeah, Fletcher and I have
The-
exchanged a few emails and conversations to connect it with our website.
Cool.
Yeah, I can kind of show the state of that map
Sure.
if you guys want. Let's see. All right, can everybody see the map? I gotta move this Zoom thing over here. All right, so it's looking pretty similar to before. I guess one difference is, so I only have data partially, in case you're looking at this on your own. I only have data partially filled in for certain properties to test it with. So like GTD and Rocky Mountain are examples where these pop-ups will fully sort of populate with all the options. So it's set up so that in the GeoJSON, like the what do you call it? The GIS file, let's call it, for the properties, if it has things like a trail map URL and it has a directions point and it has certain activities notated, this will auto populate with these. So Griswold has this data entered for it, and so it fills it with these. So yeah, this is like where if there was a trail map from Travis, it would go here and you'd click that. And I think, yeah, so it's pulling up the one from the existing one on the rec site, but and this just does like a Google Maps direction thing from your location if it has it. Otherwise, it'll prompt people for it. And description, I currently have it collapsed because I'm trying to find a good way to make it work for mobile screens, but I don't like the way it works with the accordion, so to speak, because it sort of pops it off the screen. So TBD on that, but that's where the description's hiding right now. And then yeah, so if there's activities like in the GIS file itself, if there's activities in the attribute table, it spits out icons for those activities. So Griswold has those 3. And once I get the trail data, we can put these down for other lands. And this location button should be working now. So if you allow it to access your location and you're in the bounds, it should kind of show people where they're at, you know, in the city. Still have to make a way to clear that though. And then there's a couple alternative base maps. So the only things that are sort of our data, so to speak, is the parcels, the trails, the parking areas. But all this road data and stream data and all that is built into the base map that we're pulling from a server. And so that can vary between different options. I found this to be the clearest, but there's a satellite option as well now, so you can zoom in and it'll change things so you can actually see them over the satellite. So now there's easy way to switch between that. And then just another provider I'm looking at here. This one's almost too detailed, I think. It's sort of clashes, but it's a more, you know, open space type map with some elevation and stuff. So seems like a good potential third option. I think that's it. Other changes, I've sort of got it to distinguish between mobile devices and larger screens to some degree, so it should zoom somewhat appropriately for the device size, and the labels will populate as you get closer for the ones that aren't labeled to start. So I'm looking for feedback on just general usability and like how we want to combine or not combine different parcels. So I was trying to get this parcel boundary delineated, but still have it be one parcel. Didn't quite succeed this last time around, but it's doable. So the question is, do we want to have these as separate parcels that you can click, or do we want to have it sort of as one for clarity? So picture this piece being in there as well. I don't think so Rocky Mountain, I have that question about sort of parcel division. But up here, like, this is another area I'm kind of wondering, do we want to keep these as separate parcels, or do we want to combine like these two, for example? So I'm generally looking for feedback about that. I don't really think, like GTD, we may want to split back up, but have it sort of be one unit. But I don't think there's a lot of other areas where that's an issue. So mainly Rocky Mountain and around the Green River is I have a question about like how we want to display the parcels. And then the parks around town, I don't know that I got them all, because like I don't know that we want to show every field with a baseball diamond on it or whatever, but maybe we do. So I kind of did my best to go in and grab the rec parcels, but you can see I kind of missed like this one, Lunt Field, for example. So if you all see anything that should be on here that isn't on here for a parcel that you can at least sort of interact with to some degree, let me know and I can get that added. I think that's it. And
could you
go
send
ahead.
us a link to this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, yeah, my bad. It should be the same. Let's see.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was the same, because I know before you said that link would work for a while, but then it might change.
Yeah, no, it's still in that sort of testing phase, so it's still working. But we just want to make sure you put where's chat from here? This is annoying. There's chat. Okay, yeah, so this with you just want the HTTPS in there, because it'll serve up a non-encrypted page, but it won't necessarily work as well. But yeah, so feel free to poke around in there and let me know what you think. I think I'm sort of at my limit for adding new features, but if you have something that really stands out, one feature I was hoping to add, I don't know if I'm gonna have time, but maybe in the future, is so if you zoom into an area, it's going to show you what activities are available, and I would kind of like to have the activity icons up here. Oops. And okay, and when you click on the activity, when you click on the activity, it highlights the parcels that you can do that activity on. That seems like a potentially useful addition. But yeah, so more interested in feedback on sort of as it is now, usability, sort of the way the parcels are presented, and combined or not combined, and anything that's missing. Those are my main interests at the moment. And unfortunately, I can't, with this platform I'm using, I may still figure it out, but I've yet to figure out how to do a patterned fill on things I add. So this sort of off green color here is the wetlands layer. Not exactly how I'd prefer to present it. You know, it'd be nice to have like a little shrub symbol, like is typical. But at this time, I don't have that capability. So I'm hoping to figure that out, because I don't know if it's really clear what it is at this point.
Cool. Yeah, Christy.
Thank you. It looks amazing, Fletcher. Thank you for
Oh, great.
all the work that you've put into this. I certainly can try and look at that. I still have that link saved on my computer, so hopefully it will work, or I'll try and email myself the link you put in the chat here. I guess I really like that feature about like snowshoeing or hiking so that they could populate. I think that would be really cool.
Yep.
Do you have a list that you could share of what your little icons are, in case
Yep.
there's something that we should add or suggest? That would be helpful too.
Yeah, right now I can send you an email, but right now it's hiking, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, swimming, and biking.
I think the only one that would pop into my head right now, just quickly looking, is the dog walking one, because that's what we
Yep.
get so many questions on.
Yep.
And
I have that on my list.
maybe two, one for like dog walking on a leash and one for dogs off leash.
Yep. Yeah, and what did that remind me of? I don't know, it'll come to me. But yeah, I think definitely can add that.
Do we have a better trail map for Leiden Woods other than a sketch?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's part of the project.
I actually have more to share about Leiden Woods if we.
Oh, okay.
If we
I mean,
want
I
to
like this.
move
I
to
like
that.
this a lot. It works great, but I'm just curious if we have like GPS or anything.
Yeah, no, the actual data that's on the map, aside from the parcels, and depending on your feedback on those, but the actual data that's on the map isn't necessarily how it's going to be. Where like the maps obviously are being worked on. Descriptions could use plenty of tuning, and what else? And the trails, themselves. Yeah, so we need to establish some of those, but.
Cool.
All right, stop
Any
this,
other
but yeah.
comments on that? So this, I'm going to say it goes along with the trail mapping because this came up while I was looking at the trail maps. When I was talking about the trail maps before at Leiden Woods, we previously talked about, like what is the access? How do you access it? And so I did this whole deep dive into like the whole history of the deeds on the properties and everything. And so basically what I found is that this road, Eau Claire Vincent Drive, was created in 1923 when this was all the Smead farm back then. And then he sold this like triangle section over here to some guy named Kamieski. And in that deed, it said that they would establish a road that they would mutually use and manage so that he could have access back to that parcel. And then 3 years later, the parcel that's up here, actually, let me turn the parcels on. I have parcels here somewhere. The parcel that's just north of the conservation land, that one was sold. And in that deed, it gave them a permanent a perpetual right of way to use that existing road. And so that property has changed hands a number of times. They still have that right. They still have that right of way. And this parcel says in their deed that that parcel has the right of way all the way through there. However, this parcel, it was sold until someone owned all of this. And when they purchased that section, it extinguished the easement because there was no longer, it was one property owner. So there was no easement anymore because it was just through their own land. And so then when the deed was made to the inhabitants of Greenfield to give this to the Conservation Commission, they didn't add any language about having any rights, any right of way to get to the property. So there's nothing in the deed about having a right of way to the property. And this property here doesn't say anything about having, about us having the right of way. And this property down here doesn't say anything about us being allowed to get through there. And even if we could get in through like Blyden Woods Lane here, it would still cross that private property to get back, unless it was all the way down here. So I'm not a real estate attorney or anything, but I have read that there are other, even if there isn't an easement in the deed, there could be an easement by necessity, because if that's your only way to get there, like when this property was given to the Conservation Commission, the other owner still owned all of this land, and there was a road through it back to this property. And so it could be argued that there was an easement by necessity because that was the only way to get there. So there should have been a right to do that, even if it wasn't in the deed. So I don't know anything about that. That would all be like ask a lawyer about that.
Is that the same as adverse possession? Sort of like with an established use? It's different. Okay.
Yeah, it's different because there's a different type of easement where, like, if you use it for 20 years, then you have that easement right too. That's actually a separate one.
Okay.
But also Eau Claire Vincent Drive was plowed by the city until 1969. I found a newspaper article where they said they were going to stop plowing it because it didn't meet it wasn't like wide enough or whatever, and it didn't have 3 houses on it. So that's kind of interesting. So I actually just sent an email to this property owner and just asked if they would want to like talk to the Conservation Commission about like whether the public does have access, like their understanding basically about what that. Oh, before that, I sent an email to Eric Tworog just to ask if he had any insights, but he basically said, "Wow, Travis, you did a lot of research, and I don't have anything more than that." So I did get an email back from that property owner, and they said there are some co-owners, family who are co-owners of the farm. They said, "We're interested in discussing this further. If you let us know when Conservation Commission holds meetings. We also believe our position will be better discussed on site." And they said, "Thank you for including the trail map," because I showed them that trail map that Kristen was seeing that shows Eau Claire Vincent Drive and saying like access. So I emailed them back and told them when our meetings were, and I told them about our meeting tonight. And I also said if they wanted to set up a site visit, we could set up a site visit too. So it would just be good to see like what they think our access is. Like the one thing it does say in our deed is that property. Oh, actually, I still need to be sharing this because that property to the north of the conservation area they still have that right of way, and this road actually goes up like this, and it goes through the conservation land. And so we actually have to give them that right of way through the conservation land. Unfortunately, one thing that I'll add is that the river changed up here, and it used to be above that rectangular property, and now it goes down through it. And they built a building and started clearing a big area in the conservation land like 20 years ago. I think that building was actually, I think it was longer ago than that. That building was built a while ago on conservation land. And there's I don't think I have, hold on. I'll show you an aerial. This is a totally separate issue that we're gonna have to talk about at a different meeting, but just to,
What are the orthos in this application, Fletcher? What year are they? Because I can see that building and if you change the base map from OpenStreetMap to satellite, that building is visible. But are these 2021 or like 2017 or?
Oh, you were talking to me. That is, I believe, like 2019. I don't know. Maybe there's attribution in the bottom that you can follow. Let's see.
Oh, it says Esri, iCube, US.
It's a bunch of,
Yes,
yeah, it's kind of a weird, but yeah, I can find the info.
But yeah, you can see the building in your
Hmm.
application.
yeah, and all the way back to the 1990, well, that one you can't really see it. But if you look at like the property card that has like the information, like the assessment information, I think it says it was built, I think it says the building was built in 1985, I think. And so then again, this is going to be for another meeting, but I read in the MACC handbook that adverse possession is not applicable to conservation land unless the person can show that that land was in continuous use for 20 years before 1988 when some law was passed or something like that. So I don't know. This is going to have to be a whole big thing if we want to do anything about it. But anyway, someone's had a building that, and it's like a horse barn, and there's like a big horse pasture area there.
And did you say it's dilapidated or it's in use, or you don't know?
No, I think it's in use.
The river looks pretty close to it in that year.
Yeah, here's 2019. You can kind of see this like cleared area around it. Some of the, well, that's not a very good photo.
And this is the neighbor to the north, or the one that you sent the email to?
This is the neighbor to the north. This is the neighbor
Okay.
that has a right of way by deed through the conservation land.
Okay.
So anyway, that's for another meeting, but that is related to, this access road. This is all like, you start pulling at threads and everything just unravels. That's kind of how I feel with this. So anyway, hopefully we'll, set up something with this property owner, which is a horse farm and Christmas tree farm. And see what they say. And then we can go from there, I guess.
Good research.
Thanks. I can share all that, all that stuff. Oh, one thing that I will share is that there is I'm just gonna share. Firefox thinks I want to print this. I don't want to print it. Okay, so this is there is actually a plan filed for the land that was to be conveyed to the Conservation Commission. And it does show that that right of way, that dotted right of way over 8 feet wide dirt road to the land of Mary M. Zabel, who's not the owner of that property anymore, but they still have that right of way. So you can see that dirt road coming in here, you know, if you remember from that other map, that's where the river is right now. The river like comes down in where that right of way was. And basically what I found is that if you have to give someone else a right of way through your property, it doesn't necessarily give you the right to use that right of way through someone else's property. So we wouldn't necessarily have the right to use the part that goes through the private property to the conservation land, even though we have to give this other person a right of way on that same road. I don't know. Again, I'm not a real estate attorney, so just take all that with a grain of salt. But
I wonder if the MACC would have some resources or support for finding the right attorney to talk to.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, and I don't know if like, you know, like I think they do have whole sections of the handbook about like dealing with encroachment on conservation land, and I haven't actually gone back to look at all that stuff again, but I actually did see that there was when I was looking at those sample forms about doing an NOI, there was a sample letter to a landowner about encroachment on conservation land. Anyway, Christy just said, thank you for your time. Signing off, Christy. Thanks, Christy.
I like the idea of doing a site visit. I'd love to see Leadenwoods, see that part of Leadenwoods.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the aerials of the conservation land, there's some pretty like well used trails, I think, going through that land, and it looks like I'm gonna guess it's not just like hiking and stuff. I think it's probably like ATVs and things like that, because it looks like they're tire track, you know, like two tire tracks like going through there. I don't know. I actually, Mitch, you were out there, weren't you? Did you actually make it out to the
Yeah, I was out there.
site? Did it look like it was being used? That was just my observation from the aerials. It looked like maybe it was being used by like ATVs and stuff.
You mean to get to that house up there?
No, like away, like on the trails, not on that right of way.
I mean, there's trails there. I don't know about ATVs.
Okay.
I don't remember.
All right, that's all right. I just wasn't sure. So anyway, it'd be good for us to, you know, keep a better eye on it, I guess is what is what I was getting at. That can be our next property after Griswold, maybe. Our one year of Griswold planning, and then we'll be on to the next, right? Okay, I don't have anything else for trail mapping right now, so I'll try to like, you know, make some PDFs and I can send those out, and people can give me some feedback, I guess. Okay, we do have next on our agenda Cherry Rum Brook emergency certification. Mitch, I don't know if you want to talk about that one.
Sure. So DPW has this beaver dam on Cherry Rum Brook. They need to breach it. I guess there's some issues with flooding. I was out there with Alan Torg, and he said it was an emergency, had to happen immediately. So I signed off the emergency certification, and I just gave him the same conditions that we did when this had to happen in 2019.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is a pretty common.
Yeah, it happens, I
on
guess, every
that.
few years, but this is where it is.
I'm just curious, is there any plan to do any beaver trapping, or is this just beaver dam breaching?
Yeah, they said that they would hire a trapper.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing was already done.
Okay.
But yep. And these are the conditions. I think I mentioned to avoid any wetland plant disturbance. I mentioned erosion. He said there's typically not any erosion controls needed for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 6 seemed maybe not applicable to this, or
Mhm.
I guess it's like just in case.
Hmm.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think so. I think they're just being thorough. But yeah, this just needs to be ratified.
So I guess we need to vote to approve the emergency certification.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency certification for Cherry Run Brook beaver dam removal.
Is there a
Oh.
second?
I'll second that ratification.
Okay. Motion by Fletcher, that was seconded by Kristen. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, do a roll call vote. Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Erica? Maybe Erica is not here at the moment. Oh, Erica's gone. Okay, Erica's not voting on this one because Erica's gone. So I'm also an aye, so I guess that passes 4 votes to 0. Okay. That seems pretty straightforward. Next on the agenda, I had Greenfield Wetlands Protection Ordinance Review. I just had Mitch throw that on there because I didn't know if we needed things to talk about, but I think we've had things to talk about. Basically, I just wanted to bring it up again because we had talked about, like, starting up this winter, and I didn't know if we wanted to talk about like how we might do it, or I don't know. I didn't think we were actually going to be editing it today.
One thing I'd like to suggest maybe is that we just, when we do bring this up, even if we're not going to get into it, maybe we just call it the highlights or something, like, just because like when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, so we're reviewing like what are our focus areas. I know the intermittent stream buffer for riverfront area, for example, and then there was a replication thing. I'm just saying, like, when we do even touch on it, maybe we should call out some of that stuff just to keep our minds on it.
Yeah.
But,
So do you
but
think
what did we
should...
say? I was just gonna say, what did we say last time about avoiding serial communication by assigning feedback from individual commissioners on a section at a time and then sort of handing off? Was that the solution?
Well, that was one idea, was to like assign different sections to different people, and then they would edit it on their own and then bring it back to the meeting, and then we would talk about the edits. That's how it was done the last time it was updated, in like 2013 or something. They would, like, one person would go home, edit it, come back, everyone would look at it, and then like give feedback. So
Got it. And then sort of an alternative is working on it together in a meeting.
Yeah, I guess. Or if we all had individual comments that we only sent to Mitch and not copied other people, and then Mitch made the edits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work too. And then
I
it'd be
don't-
the same thing. Then we would see it at the meeting and review it.
Kind of
Can
like that
we-
option.
Can we put a deliverable on this so that we don't just keep, because I know I'm not gonna do anything unless I know there's a deadline.
Maybe for one section or one issue.
Yeah, or like piecemeal it, I don't know, just something that I can put on my calendar that, hey, we have to get this done, this is on the agenda, we're actually talking about it on this day. Please have your comments to Mitch by that day, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I guess I didn't know, like, do we want to be starting this now? Or, I mean, last time we said we'll start it in the winter. That's what we said.
Mhm.
So,
When we're late.
yeah. When we start canceling meetings because we don't have everything on the agenda.
I mean, why don't we just make it really digestible and do like, it doesn't even have to be like, how would you change this whole section? It could be, what do you think about this particular requirement in this section? And like, you know what I mean? Or maybe it is better just to say, what should this actually look like based on these other examples? But like with the intermittent stream thing, it's like, do we, number one, want to have jurisdictional area be intermittent streams in and around them? And I assume it's probably yes. And then like what buffer do we want around that? Some of these could be pretty straightforward, and it's just sort of like adjusting distance or something.
Yeah. And like, you know, most of it's going to stay the same. It'll just be, yeah, little things here and
Right.
there. So I don't have any answers. I don't know what the
What, maybe we can make it a goal to send a comment to review Mitch's document that has other language from other commission or other bylaws rather on this, and then specifically on the bylaw specific jurisdictional areas and their buffers, we could send Mitch comments on those things based on, without CCing anybody else, and set like a couple months or something, or I don't know what the,
maybe like a month from now,
okay.
like not, you know, the second one in November.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting that on my calendar right now. So are we specifically gonna be looking for what other town bylaws have for intermittent stream jurisdiction? I don't know if I've ever seen any other municipality with a riverfront area on an intermittent stream.
Yeah, so Mitch put together some examples from
Oh,
other,
okay.
how other towns do it. But that's a good point. So is it jurisdictional, what type of jurisdiction? And then, or what type of resource area rather, if it is jurisdictional, and then distance, maybe.
And we are only sending this to Mitch.
Mitch, does that sound good to you? Like we could send you these and maybe you could like edit the actual, you know, like a copy of the actual ordinance.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to do it.
Okay.
And I can just make sense of,
Yeah,
your comments.
try to merge them together.
yeah.
Or have like, you know, two options if people have different ideas. Yeah, and there's also, you know, MACC does have like a like an example bylaw that I think ours is pretty much based on. So that would be another thing to review too. And then we did have a spreadsheet of like all the cities and towns and like what's protected in the ordinances and bylaws in each of those cities and towns. Does that sound familiar to other people?
I feel like that's always changing, but there is a spreadsheet that talks about which towns in Mass have and cities have a bylaw or ordinance. But
Yeah.
it is a moving target.
Yeah. But I think that has some information about like who has like expanded riverfront protection or who has no disturb zones. And so that could help, when looking for examples from other places.
Good call.
Okay, so November 22nd, 2 days before Thanksgiving. Is that a good time? I feel like maybe someone might be traveling. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like there's very little business the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
In my experience.
I'm supposed to have a CPC meeting on Thanksgiving Day, but I'm guessing that's going to get moved because that's not really a good day to have a public meeting. All right, so that's the plan. Now we have a plan. Better than we were before. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is just any topics not reasonably anticipated. I think I've already kind of thrown those in where they were applicable that I know of, unless anyone else has anything. And then Mitch, are there any enforcement updates?
Get any response from Tom about Conway?
He just hasn't responded at all yet.
Yeah, just no response. I don't know what we want to do there.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think one time when we had to email him, it took him a little time to get back to us and then he said that he was like talking to different people in his office and like getting their input. And so, I mean, maybe just send like a follow-up if it's been a while.
Okay. I think it's been about a month.
Oh yeah, well.
The last meeting, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it would be good to have, DEP input on that before we do anything.
Okay. And the one on Plain Road, I'm meeting with them tomorrow. So I'll check it out, see where they're at.
Okay. Anything for project monitoring, correspondence, and site visit scheduling?
Fletcher raised his hand.
Oh,
Not on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for acknowledging me, though.
yeah, I wasn't even looking. Anything for any of those open orders of conditions?
I'm just trying to pull up the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the one on Layden Road they're done. They've been done. So they submitted a RCOC. It's just on the next agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I think you said that. Cool. Yeah, I was just looking through all these projects to see if there was anything I could think of. Okay, well, that was the end of our agenda then.
Can I just throw a random thing out there?
Sure.
Mitch, would it be possible for you to add shortcut links in the drive from well, just the use case is just looking at Griswold property folder and then trying to get to the stewardship recent stewardship documents.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They're kind of in very different locations. So if you could just do, whichever way is more useful. I can't remember which, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
That'd be super
they can
helpful.
probably link to each other.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh, and I'll, speaking of like the documents, I'll upload all all of those deeds and everything that I was going through for the Lion Woods property. I've got it all in a folder, so I can just copy it in there. for that
Nice.
one, in case anyone wants to check it out. It'd be good to document for the future, I guess. Showing our potential easement vanishing. All right. anyone-
My battery here might die. So if I drop out, that's why. But
Oh, so
before
you
it
want to
does-
make a motion to adjourn before that?
no, before that happens, I want to say thank you so much to everybody for the card and the really sweet gift for World Eye Books. That was really special and unexpected. So thank you so much. I still have the card up.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get
Oh.
that's one of the fun things of being the chair is I got to deliver it. So
Yeah, we haven't gone and used our gift certificate yet, but when we do, I'm thinking we'll have to find, the Lorax or something
Mm,
something appropriate for,
Yeah.
for being gifted from Conservation Commission.
nice. Well, I'll,
Can I just,
oop.
before we,
Yeah.
I'll just apologize for my tech difficulties here.
That's
It just
okay.
kept
No worries.
cutting in and out. And I don't know, I think I missed a vote there, but I heard Fletcher make it and then it cut out. So I don't know if you need to go back, want to go back and I'll say aye, but or not, and if you just skip
It,
it.
pa- it passed.
we
I
got the
just
quorum.
said, yeah, I just said that you were not voting on that one because you were in the meeting at the time.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kept cutting out and cutting out. So I don't know.
That's all right.
Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting if no one has any other bits to add.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. I guess we'll do a roll call vote here. Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel,
I
Fletcher,
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
All right. And I am also an aye. So we are adjourned at 8:24 p.m.